The applause echoed through the ballroom while I stood alone near the back wall with a glass of untouched water in my hand. Bright lights followed my wife as she walked across the stage with the confidence everyone admired. Cameras flashed. Reporters smiled. Investors leaned forward, ready to hear every word. Olivia Carter, the youngest CEO in the city, the woman everyone called unstoppable. Watching her succeed should have made me proud. Instead, it reminded me how easy it had become for the world, and maybe even for her, to forget I existed. None of this happened by luck, Olivia began, her voice steady. Every victory came from hard work, bold decisions, and an incredible team. The audience applauded again. I smiled because that was what supportive husbands were supposed to do. No one there knew how many nights I had stayed awake helping her prepare presentations after my own work was finished. No one knew I had rewritten business plans while she slept on the couch from exhaustion. No one knew I had turned down promotions because her company needed someone she could trust. I never wanted credit. I only wanted to matter. Months earlier, she had promised we would finally celebrate our wedding anniversary together. That dinner became another canceled reservation. My board meeting ran late. Another promise disappeared. My investors changed the schedule. Another empty evening. The client needs me. The excuses always sounded reasonable. That was the hardest part. There was never one huge betrayal. Only hundreds of small disappointments that slowly taught me not to expect anything. My phone vibrated. Olivia, running late tonight. Don't wait for dinner. I stared at the message. She had sent it 3 hours after dinner was supposed to begin. I slipped the phone back into my pocket before anyone noticed the small crack in my smile. The host invited me closer to the stage. Come on, Ethan. You're family. Family. The word almost felt strange. I moved through the crowd until I stood near the front. Olivia's eyes briefly met mine. No smile. No warmth. Just a quick nod before her attention returned to the audience. Our company reached this milestone because of someone who challenged me every single day. My heartbeat picked up. Maybe this was finally it. Maybe she was about to acknowledge everything we had built together. She turned toward the front row. Damien. He stood, straightened his expensive suit, and accepted the applause with practiced confidence. You pushed this company to another level. More applause. You believed in my vision when others hesitated. The room grew louder. I honestly couldn't have done this without you. My fingers tightened around glass. Damien walked onto the stage beside her. She laughed at something he whispered. The photographers loved it. Flash after flash lit the room. Someone beside me leaned over. They make an incredible team. I forced another smile. They do. The words tasted bitter. The ceremony continued. Awards. Photos. Champagne. More applause. Eventually, Olivia thanked her family. My family has always supported my journey. That was all. One sentence. No names. No glance in my direction. Nothing. I clapped with everyone else. My hands moved automatically while something inside me quietly fell apart. After the event ended, guests surrounded Olivia. Everyone wanted a photo. Another handshake. Another interview. I waited. 10 minutes. 20. 30. Finally, our eyes met again. She walked over while still checking emails on her phone. You're still here. I thought we'd go home together. Her fingers never stopped moving across the screen. I have another meeting. Tonight. It won't take long. A staff member hurried over. Damien is waiting upstairs. She nodded immediately. I'm coming. And she looked back at me. You don't have to wait. I searched her face for something. Anything. Regret. Hesitation. A sign that leaving me alone bothered her. Nothing. She adjusted her jacket. We'll talk tomorrow. Before I could answer, she was already walking away. Damien held the elevator open. He smiled politely. Good night, Ethan. The doors closed. I remained where I was until the lobby became almost empty. Outside, the cold air hit my face. The city sparkled around me. Everyone celebrated Olivia's success. No one noticed the husband driving home alone. The house greeted me with complete silence. The dining table looked exactly as I had left it. 2 plates, 2 glasses, 2 candles that had burned down weeks ago during another dinner she never attended. The food sat cold beneath aluminum foil. I removed it anyway. Old habits refused to die. Maybe she would come home hungry. Maybe tonight would somehow be different. Halfway through warming the meal, I stopped. The microwave beeped. No footsteps came through the front door. I switched it off. The food returned to the refrigerator untouched. Upstairs, our bedroom felt larger than I remembered. Her side of the closet was full. Designer dresses, business suits, travel bags. My side looked almost empty. The wedding photo stood on the dresser. I picked it up. We looked so different then. She had laughed without checking her phone. I had believed love would always be enough. My thumb brushed across the glass. When was the last time she looked at me like that? I searched my memory. A birthday? Christmas? Our honeymoon? Nothing came easily. The answer frightened me more than I wanted to admit. My phone buzzed again. For one hopeful second, I thought it was Olivia. Instead, the screen showed an unknown number. You deserve to know the truth. Below the message sat a single photo. My heartbeat slowed, then it nearly stopped. I opened the image. It had been taken less than an hour earlier. The ballroom downstairs was empty. Most of the lights had already been turned off. Olivia stood beside Damien with two champagne glasses resting on a private table. Neither of them noticed the camera. She was smiling. Not the polite smile she gave investors. Not the tired smile she gave me. This one reached her eyes. The kind of smile I hadn't seen directed at me in a very long time. Under the photo were 6 simple words. This wasn't the first time either. The photo stayed on my phone all night. I zoomed in again and again, hoping to find proof that my mind was making everything worse than it really was. Instead, I noticed details I had missed before. Olivia's phone rested face down on the table. She always kept in her hand around me. The 2 champagne glasses were already half empty. Damien leaned closer than any business partner needed to. Nothing in the picture proved they were having an affair. It proved something else. She still had smiles left to give. They just weren't meant for me anymore. Morning arrived without sleep. Olivia came home after sunrise. The front door clicked open while I sat in the kitchen with a cup of cold coffee. She stopped when she noticed me. "You're awake." I never went to bed. Her coat slipped onto the chair. "It was a long meeting." I know. The words hung between us. She waited. Maybe she expected another apology for doubting her. Maybe another promise that I would understand. Instead, I slid my phone across the table. The screen lit up. Her smile disappeared as she studied the photo. "Who sent this?" "I don't know. This doesn't mean anything." "It might not." I kept my voice steady. "But why didn't you tell me there was another celebration after everyone left?" She folded her arms. "It wasn't important. It felt important enough to stay for." A small sigh escaped her lips. "Ethan, I'm exhausted." "So am I." She rubbed her forehead. "You've been acting different lately." "I've been noticing things." "Like what?" I didn't answer right away. Sometimes listing every disappointment only makes the other person search for excuses. You cancel every plan we make. "My job." You stop listening before I finish speaking. Her expression hardened. "This company depends on me. Our marriage does too." She reached for her coffee mug, realized it was empty, then set it back down without another word. "I don't have time for another emotional conversation." That sentence hurt more than the photo. Another emotional conversation. As if loving my own wife had become an inconvenience. "I'll go to the office." She picked up her bag. "We'll talk later." The front door closed behind her. Deep inside, I already knew later would never come. Instead of following her, I drove to the company headquarters. Employees greeted me politely. Most of them still respected me. Others barely noticed I had walked in. The building had changed. So had my place inside it. A conversation drifting from an open meeting room stopped me. Damien approved the proposal. "What about Ethan? He isn't involved anymore." "Really?" That's what Olivia decided. My feet refused to move. That project had been mine from the beginning. Nobody had told me it was no longer mine. I quietly walked away before anyone noticed. Inside my office, I opened old project files. One by one, I found my name disappearing from documents. Recommendations replaced. Responsibilities reassigned. Meetings removed from my calendar. The changes hadn't happened overnight. They had happened slowly enough that I kept believing they were temporary. Someone knocked gently. Grace stepped inside, carrying 2 coffees. "I guess you skipped breakfast again." A tired smile crossed my face. You still know me too well. She placed a cup on my desk. You look terrible. I probably do. She studied me for a moment. This isn't just work. I handed her my phone. She remained quiet while looking at the picture. Finally, she returned it. What are you going to do? I honestly don't know. Grace leaned against the desk. You've spent years protecting everyone else. I made promises. You also disappeared. Those words landed harder than she probably intended. She wasn't attacking me. She was telling me the truth. You used to fight for your own ideas, she continued. Now you spend every day making excuses for people who don't fight for you. I stared through the office window. The city looked exactly the same. Only my life felt unfamiliar. That afternoon, another meeting began without inviting me. Damien walked past my office. He smiled politely. Enjoy the afternoon. I watched him continue toward the conference room, carrying my reports. Nobody stopped him. Nobody questioned why. I finally understood. I wasn't being replaced. I had already been replaced. By evening, I returned home before Olivia. The wedding photo still stood on the dresser. My younger self smiled back at me. Hope looked good on him. Carefully, I lifted the frame. There was no anger, no dramatic speech, only quiet acceptance. The photo went into a drawer. Then I pulled a suitcase from the closet. I packed enough clothes for a few weeks. A laptop, important documents, nothing else. The sound of the front door echoed downstairs. Olivia was home. She entered the bedroom and froze. The suitcase stood beside the bed. What are you doing? Leaving. She laughed softly, not because it was funny, because she thought I couldn't be serious. You need some space. I need respect. You've always had it. I met her eyes. No. The smile faded. This is because of one picture. This is because of 1,000 moments. She stepped closer. I've worked myself to exhaustion for us. I know. You knew what building this company would cost. I never thought it would cost us. She crossed her arms. You become insecure. The word stung. I become lonely. You keep making everything personal. We're married. She shook her head in frustration. You don't understand what's at stake. I understand perfectly. My hand rested on the suitcase handle. The company became your whole world. It had to, and somewhere along the way, I stopped being part of it. She didn't answer. Instead, she glanced toward the hallway, already distracted by another notification lighting up her phone. That tiny movement told me more than any argument. Even now, she wasn't fully present. I won't stop you. Her voice sounded calm. You'll cool down. No. Another pause stretched between us. You always come back. The confidence in those words almost broke me. She truly believed I would keep accepting less. I won't this time. Her eyes searched mine, waiting for hesitation. She found none. Downstairs, I placed an envelope on the dining table. Inside was my resignation letter. Every idea I had built, every sacrifice, every late night, I left them behind. The front door closed quietly. No one ran after me. Outside, the evening air felt strangely lighter. Not because life had become easier, because I had finally stopped carrying a marriage by myself. My phone rang before I reached my car. Grace, did you leave? Yes. You okay? I don't know yet. You will be. She paused. Leaving isn't losing Ethan. I leaned against the car door. It feels like it. It isn't. Her voice softened. It means you finally refused to disappear. The call ended. I drove away without checking the rearview mirror. Hours later, while settling into a small hotel room, an unfamiliar number appeared on my screen. Victor Hayes. The name caught my attention immediately. One of the city's most respected investors. Curious, I answered. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. His voice carried calm confidence. I've followed your work for years. I frowned. My work, not Olivia's. A brief pause. Yours. Another moment passed before he continued. I believe you've been standing in the wrong shadow. My heart beat a little faster. I like to discuss building something new. After the call ended, hope quietly returned to a place that had felt empty for a long time. Across town, my phone showed one final notification. Message delivered. I had written Olivia only one sentence before turning my phone face down. I hope one day you understand why I had to leave. The message remained unread. A few minutes later, I watched the status disappear. She had deleted our conversation without ever opening it. The conference room was waiting for me, not for Olivia, not because I was her husband, for me. Victor Hayes stood near the window, reading through a proposal with a quiet smile. The moment I walked in, he closed the folder and reached out his hand. "I'm glad you came." "So am I." He motioned toward the chair across from him. "I've watched your work for years." I couldn't hide my surprise. "You knew about me?" "I knew who solved problems behind closed doors." He leaned back. "People celebrate the face of a company." A brief pause settled between us. "I pay attention to the mind." Those words stayed with me. For years, I had become used to standing in the background. Victor never treated me like someone's husband. He treated me like the person he wanted to hire. He slid a thick folder across the table. "I want you to build something with me." I opened it slowly. A new consulting company, a leadership position, complete creative control. My name appeared on the first page. Not hidden, not listed under someone else. Right there at the top. "You trust me with this?" "I trust results." He smiled. "And your results have always belonged to someone else." I laughed quietly. The sound almost surprised me. It had been a long time since laughter came naturally. "I'll do it." Victor nodded once. I expected that answer. The next few weeks passed faster than I imagined. Every morning started with purpose instead of waiting. Every meeting ended with people asking for my opinion instead of speaking over me. The office wasn't large. The furniture was simple. The walls still needed decorations. None of that mattered. The energy inside those rooms reminded me why I had fallen in love with business in the first place. Ideas mattered there. People listened. One afternoon, Grace dropped a folder onto my desk. "You've created extra work." I raised an eyebrow. I thought that was good news. "It is." She laughed. 3 new clients signed this morning. I opened the contracts. Companies I had tried to approach years ago. Back then, they wanted Olivia's brand. Now, they wanted my experience. Grace folded her arms. "Feels different, doesn't it?" "It does." "You keep smiling." "I noticed." She grinned. "You should do it more often." Across town, another story was beginning. News articles appeared almost every day. Major client ends partnership with Carter Group. Investors demand answers. Leadership under pressure. I didn't celebrate. Watching someone fall never erased the pain they caused. Still, I couldn't ignore what was happening. Damien's name appeared beside every risky decision. Expensive expansions, poor investments, aggressive promises that never became reality. The company I helped build was slowly losing its balance. My phone buzzed during lunch. Olivia calling. I watched the screen until it stopped ringing. A few minutes later, another message appeared. "Can we talk?" The phone remained on my desk. Face down. Hours later, another one arrived. "Please." I read it, then returned to work. Not because I wanted revenge, because I finally understood something important. Not every message deserves an immediate answer. A week passed. Then another. Business continued growing. Confidence returned little by little. The mirror reflected someone familiar again. Not perfect, just no longer invisible. One afternoon, Grace knocked softly before opening my office door. "Someone's here." "Who?" She hesitated. "You'll probably want to handle this yourself." I stepped into the reception area. Olivia stood near the entrance. No cameras, no assistants, no expensive audience, just the two of us. She looked tired. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes. Even her posture seemed heavier. "I wasn't sure you'd see me. I have 10 minutes. A small meeting room gave us privacy. Neither of us rushed to speak. She glanced around. "This place is nice. It's enough. I heard business is going well. We're doing fine." Her fingers traced the edge of the coffee cup without lifting it. "I've been trying to reach you." "I know." You never answered. "I needed time." Another pause stretched between us. "I miss talking to you." The sentence landed softly. Months earlier, I would have held onto every word. Now I simply listened. The company isn't the same. I noticed. Things became complicated. I nodded. They usually do when people stop listening. She lowered her eyes. I wanted to explain. "Go ahead." She inhaled slowly. "I trusted Damien because he delivered results. And me, you always supported me." A sad smile crossed my face. "That's the difference." Confusion flickered across her face. I trusted him to grow the company. She stopped speaking. You expected me to stay no matter what. The room became very quiet. She couldn't deny it. Maybe she had never even realized it before. I didn't mean to push you away. You didn't push. I gently tapped the table. You stopped reaching. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. I've been thinking about us. I have too. Can we start over? The question lingered between us. Months ago, my answer would have come without hesitation. Now another feeling stood beside love. Self-respect. I don't know. Her shoulders dropped. I was hoping. I know. I stood up. The meeting was over. Not because I hated her, because there was nothing else to add. She remained seated for another moment. You're different. I had to become different. Otherwise, I'd still be waiting beside cold dinners. She closed her eyes briefly. I never wanted to hurt you. I believe that. The word surprised even me. I also believe you did. She slowly rose from her chair. I'll keep trying. I offered a polite nod. You should focus on yourself. What about us? I opened the meeting room door. I finally am. She walked past me without another word. Halfway to the exit, she turned around. Not to argue, just to look. Then she quietly disappeared behind the glass doors. Grace walked over after a few moments. You okay? A deep breath settled inside me. Better than I expected. You still love her. I probably always will. She studied my expression. But love isn't enough when respect leaves first. Grace smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The rest of the afternoon passed peacefully. No anger. No celebration. Only work. That evening, Victor entered my office carrying today's financial reports. You handled yourself well. You knew she came. The receptionist isn't exactly secretive. A quiet chuckle escaped both of us. Victor placed another folder on my desk. Our biggest client just renewed for 3 years. I stared at the contract. A few months earlier, I couldn't even imagine something like this. Now it felt earned. Not borrowed. Earned. As the sun disappeared behind the city skyline, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Olivia. It was a breaking news alert. Carter Group announces internal financial investigation following investor concerns. I opened the article. The investigation had uncovered missing company funds, several unauthorized transfers, suspicious contracts. The board had ordered a full review. The final paragraph caught my attention. Early evidence suggested that multiple financial decisions approved by Damian Brooks were now under serious investigation. I slowly lowered the phone. The truth had finally started catching up with him. The headlines became impossible to ignore. Every business website carried another story about Carter Group. Every interview raised the same question. How had one of the city's strongest companies fallen apart so quickly? I already knew the answer. Trust had been placed in the wrong hands. One morning, Victor stepped in my office holding a newspaper. He placed it on my desk without a word. Damien's photo filled the front page. Executive under investigation for financial fraud. I read the article slowly. Millions of dollars had been moved through fake consulting contracts. Company funds had disappeared into shell businesses. Several documents carried Damien's approval. Others carried Olivia's signature. She hadn't stolen anything. She had trusted someone who used her ambition against her. Victor folded his arms. You warned her once, didn't you? I tried. And she thought I was jealous. He let out a quiet breath. Sometimes people only recognize honesty after a liar takes everything. Those words stayed with me long after he left. Over the next few weeks, more details surfaced. Former employees admitted Damien had quietly pushed loyal people out of important meetings. Managers revealed he often blocked my recommendations before they ever reached Olivia. He had controlled information carefully. Not because I lacked ability, because I stood in his way. The anonymous photo finally made sense. It had never been about proving an affair. It had been a warning. Someone inside the company had tried to tell me I was being erased long before I noticed. My phone rang late that afternoon. Margaret, Olivia's mother. I stared at her name for several seconds before answering. Hello. Her voice sounded older than I remembered. Ethan, thank you for picking up. Is everything all right? No. A long pause followed. Can we meet? We chose a quiet cafe near the river. She arrived wearing a simple gray coat instead of the elegant clothes she usually preferred. The confident woman I remembered seemed smaller somehow. "You've lost weight." A faint smile appeared. "So have you." Neither of us touched the coffee. She kept turning the cup slowly between her hands. "I owe you an apology." "You don't owe me anything." "I do." Her eyes remained fixed on the table. I watched my daughter change. Another slow breath. I watched you disappear. I stayed quiet. There were nights I wanted to call. Her fingers tightened around the cup. I wanted to tell her she was making a terrible mistake. "What stopped you?" I thought she would realize it herself. Regret settled across her face. I believed love would be enough to bring her back. It wasn't. "No." She finally met my eyes. "I failed both of you." The honesty in her voice carried no excuses, only acceptance. "She's paying for those choices now." "I know." She barely sleeps. Margaret reached into her purse and removed an old key. "The apartment." She gently pushed it toward me. "She went there yesterday." I frowned. "I thought you should know." That evening curiosity pulled me back to the place I had once called home. I didn't go inside. I parked across the street. The lights glowed through the living room window. Olivia moved slowly from room to room. She wasn't searching for furniture. She was searching for memories. Most of them were gone. Weeks earlier, I had quietly taken only what belonged to me. Books, clothes, a favorite coffee mug, my old guitar. The apartment had become strangely empty. Not because I removed so much, because I had always filled more space than either of us realized. Later that night, my phone vibrated. An unexpected message appeared. "Olivia, I found your old tablet." Another one followed. "I didn't know you saved all our messages." My fingers froze above the screen. I never answered. Minutes passed. Then another message arrived. "You reminded me to eat before every meeting. You wished me luck before every presentation. You waited outside hospitals when Mom was sick." Another pause. Why didn't I see any of this? I closed my eyes. Those messages had never been hidden. She had simply stopped reading them. The next morning, Grace entered my office, carrying breakfast. "You skipped dinner again." "I've been busy." She placed the bag in front of me anyway. Being successful doesn't give you permission to become unhealthy. A small smile escaped. "You sound like me. I learned from the best." She noticed my phone on the desk. "Everything okay?" I nodded slowly. She's finally reading the messages. Grace understood immediately. "A little late." "Yes." She hesitated. "Does it change anything?" I thought carefully before answering. "It changes how I see her. And not how I see myself." Grace smiled with quiet approval. News spread quickly that afternoon. Damien had been arrested. Several executives agreed to testify. More evidence continued appearing. Emails, financial records, private conversations. Every document pointed in the same direction. Olivia wasn't the criminal. She had become the perfect target because she ignored everyone warning her, including me. That evening, another message arrived. This time it wasn't text. It was a photo. Our old dining table. 2 plates. 2 glasses. No food. The caption beneath it was painfully short. "Now I understand." I stared at the image for a long time. She finally saw the cold dinners, the empty chairs, the quiet waiting. Not because I explained them, because she was living them herself. Days later, Margaret called again. "She's leaving the apartment." "Is she selling it?" "No." A soft sigh reached the phone. "She says it stopped feeling like home the day you walked out." The sentence lingered long after the call ended. 1 week later, my assistant knocked gently. "Someone's here." I expected another client. Instead, Olivia stood outside my office holding a large envelope. She looked different, not because she wore simpler clothes. Pride no longer walked beside her. I invited her inside. She carefully placed the envelope on my desk. I signed them. Divorce papers. Every page already carried her signature. No dramatic speech followed. No desperate attempt to stop me. She simply rested both hands on the folder. I spent days wondering if I should bring these. I waited. I almost tore them apart. A sad smile appeared. That would only help me. The room stayed quiet. "I don't want to trap you in a marriage built on regret." She gently pushed the papers closer. "You deserve the choice I never gave you." I looked at the signatures. The ink seemed heavier than paper should allow. She turned toward the window. "I've been thinking about something." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. When we were together, another pause. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She simply searched for the courage to finish one final question. Slowly, she faced me again. Tell me the truth. Her hands trembled just enough to notice. Were you ever truly happy with me? Olivia's question stayed between us. Not because it was difficult to understand, because it deserved an honest answer. She stood quietly across my office. The divorce papers rested on my desk. Neither of us reached for them. Were you ever truly happy with me? Her voice barely rose above a whisper. My eyes drifted toward the window for a moment. The city looked peaceful. Years ago, I believed peace would come from keeping our marriage together. Now I understood something different. Peace came from telling the truth. She listened without moving. I was happy every time we shared breakfast before work. A small smile touched my face. I was happy when we built your first business plan together. Another memory surfaced. I was happy when you laughed over burned pancakes, because neither of us knew how to cook. The smile slowly disappeared, but those moments became smaller. My fingers rested lightly on the papers. Work became your first choice. A quiet pause followed. I became the person waiting at home. Her eyes filled with regret. You still loved me. I did. And now? I took a slow breath. I'll always be grateful that I loved you. The answer wasn't the one she hoped for. But love without respect slowly becomes loneliness. She lowered her head. I finally understand. No argument followed. No desperate promises. Only two people accepting a truth that had arrived too late. I picked up the pen. The sound of my signature crossing the paper seemed louder than anything else in the room. She signed beside mine. Just like that, our marriage became part of the past. Olivia carefully removed her wedding ring. She held it for a few seconds before placing it on top of the folder. I kept believing there would always be another chance. I quietly removed mine as well. I believed that too. She smiled sadly. We were both wrong. She stood. For a brief moment, it felt as though she wanted to hug me. Instead, she stepped back. I hope life is kind to you. It already has been. She nodded. I can finally see that. The office door closed gently behind her. I didn't chase after her. She didn't look back. Some endings deserve silence more than words. A few weeks later, Damien appeared in court. News cameras crowded the entrance. Reporters shouted questions. He ignored every one of them. The confidence he once carried had disappeared. Financial fraud, forgery, abuse of company funds. The evidence left little room for excuses. Justice moved slowly, but it moved. I watched the coverage from my office television. There was no satisfaction in seeing another person fall. Only relief that the truth no longer had to hide. Gray stepped inside, carrying 2 coffees. You've been staring at that screen for 10 minutes. I was thinking about him. I shook my head. About how one person's lies changed so many lives. She handed me a cup. You didn't let it destroy yours. I almost did, but you didn't. A warm smile crossed her face. That's the important part. Business continued growing. Victor trusted me with larger projects. New clients arrived every month. Employees filled the office with ideas and laughter. People greeted me because they respected my work, not because of the woman standing beside me. One afternoon, Victor joined me on the balcony outside the office. You've built something special. We all did. He laughed softly, still giving everyone else credit. Old habits. He leaned against the railing. Not all of them are bad. The city stretched beneath us. Busy streets, bright buildings, new opportunities. I spent years thinking success meant helping someone else shine. Victor glanced toward me. And now I know success also means refusing to disappear. He nodded with quiet approval. I was hoping you'd discover that. Months passed. Winter became spring. The stories about Carter Group slowly faded from the headlines. The company survived, but not without heavy losses. Several offices closed. Investors left. The empire Olivia had built became much smaller. One evening, I unexpectedly crossed paths with Margaret at a charity event. She smiled warmly. She asked me how you've been. And what did you tell her? The truth. A gentle laugh escaped her. I told her you finally looked peaceful. I looked around the crowded hall. How is she? Margaret thought for a moment. She's working. That doesn't surprise me. But differently. She smiled. She listens now. The answer stayed with me long after we parted. Sometimes people truly change. That doesn't mean the past disappears. It only means they finally understand it. Late one night, my phone vibrated. Olivia. Not a call. Just one message. I opened it. I don't expect forgiveness. A second line appeared. I only wanted to thank you. I kept reading. You spent years showing me what loyalty looked like. Another pause. I didn't recognize its value until I lost it. The final sentence was painfully simple. I hope someday I become the kind of person you believed I could be. I read the message twice, then a third time. Not because I wanted to return, because I wanted to remember without anger. My thumb rested over the screen. Slowly, I deleted the conversation. Not to erase her, to make room for tomorrow. The following week, the courthouse finalized our divorce. The clerk handed us the last documents. Everything was complete. Outside the building, people hurried along the sidewalks without knowing our story. Olivia stopped a few steps away. The spring breeze moved a few loose strands of her black hair. She looked healthier than before, still carrying sadness, but no longer hiding from it. Take care of yourself. You too. She smiled gently. This time, it wasn't the bright smile from a company celebration. It was quieter, more honest. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Olivia. She turned and walked toward the parking lot. I watched only long enough to know she wouldn't fall. Then I faced the opposite direction. The morning sun warmed the city. People laughed outside a nearby cafe. Traffic rolled past. Each step felt lighter than the one before. Not because I had won. Not because Olivia had lost. Neither of those things mattered anymore. The greatest victory wasn't watching karma find someone else. Years ago, I believed fate had taken everything from me. Standing outside that courthouse, I finally understood the truth. Fate hadn't taken my future. It had rescued me from a life where I kept begging to be seen. I adjusted my jacket, lifted my head, and walked toward the road ahead. This time, I wasn't following anyone else's dream. I was finally living my own.